My name is Nurnisa.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Hayati binti Salim.
Hello, my name is Dura Anissa binti Salim.
My name is Muhammad Arif Benusli.
Hi, my name is Rohit Rosham.
I am Chungkayo.
Our introduction, background of the study of the relationship between unemployment rate and the economic factors covering the period 2011 to 2019 in Malaysia. In this globalization era, unemployment has become a problem and a phenomenon. Regardless of how rich or well a country is, it will always have an unavoidable unemployment problem. One of the most visible indications of economic activity is unemployment. During recession, the unemployment rate often rises, then drops as the economy recovers. Unemployment has a lot of negative implications such as lower salaries and purchasing power, which makes it difficult for people to improve their standard of living. Next, for the statement of the research problem. This study indicates there is a relationship between the unemployment rate and the economic factors. This research is analyzing the cause of unemployment which affect the unemployment rate. In this study, unemployment was considered as dependent variable, while economic factors, which is growth rate of real GDP, inflation, foreign direct investment, FDI, and debt to GDP that affect the unemployment rate, was considered as the independent variables. As we know, Malaysia's unemployment rate is low and constant, averaging around 3%, implying that the population is near to full employment. For the objectives of the study, first, to determine the relationship between unemployment rate and the economic factors covering the period 2011 to 2019 in Malaysia. Second, to test the significance of the independent variables that affect unemployment rate using events. For the significance of the study is considered as one of the important to determine the relationship between the unemployment rate and the economic factors during the period. The result from this research will help to guide the researchers and the government as well. As an example, the government can make new policies to improve national economics. On the other hand, this research may help policymakers in making appropriate revisions and stimulating the employability strategy so that unemployment and crime rates can be reduced.
Literature review. As you can see on the screen, there are the three full title of the research studies. We retrieve these three study papers because these three study papers have outstanding found. Based on the three study papers, we found that there may be some countries that did not share the theory of the negative relationship between the unemployment rate and economic growth. This is the found retrieved from the research paper done based on the data of Macedonia. In the study paper of Macedonia, we can find that although they done various types of regression model to find the significant relationship between the two variables, but none of these models reveal the result that suggests the theory. And the second point is that the use of non-economic indicator is acceptable. We can see that the research paper done it based on the data from Nigeria use the variables like the political potential and the political stability, while the other two, like the other host study paper, use the economic indicator like the inflation rate, GDP growth rate, consumer price index. But given that the study paper done using the data from the Nigeria show the increasing adjusted R-square value, it is acceptable. And the third point is the high number of observation is a key to the Great Resignation model. We can see that the research paper done using the data from the US show that there is a significant relationship between the two variables. And in the conclusions part, it said that this might be because of they have the high number of observation. But as our study paper done was using the Malaysia data, we might be not have the same level of enable to get a high number of observations. As you might see later that we may only retrieve the value from 2011 to the recent one.
Part we will look at first section, which is model specification, method estimation, estimation strategy, and data descriptions. First, model specification. Malaysia is the country that we use to find the correlation between GDP growth rate and unemployment rate from 2011 until 2019. Whereas our dependent variable is unemployment rate and independent variable is GDP growth rate, inflation rate, FDI, which is foreign direct investment, and debt to GDP rate. Next is method estimation. The data that we collected is mostly from Economic Planning Unit website and World Development Indicator, which is WDI. We analyze the data with the help of eViews software versions 11. This software will help us to clarify either there is significant or not between dependent variable with independent variables that we've collected. Then, estimation strategy. We are using time series data, which is a set of observations gathered over period through multiple measurements, and the method that we use is OLS, which is ordinary least squares. This method will help us to test the diagnostic text, which is multiple regression, heteroscedasticity, autocorrelation, and multicollinearity. And lastly, data description. After doing the review test to produce the data description, we found that debt to GDP rate has the highest mean value at 51.84 and standard deviation at 1.25. While for the Jacobera, FDI has the highest value at 2.62.
Empirical finding. First is the descriptive statistic. As we can see here, there's two data, which is the mean and the standard deviation. If we plus minus both value, we can get the maximum and minimum value. For example, the unemployment rate. The mean value of unemployment rate is 3.17, and then the standard deviation value of unemployment rate is 0.17. If we plus both value, we can get the maximum value, which is 3.35. Then if the mean minus standard deviation, we can get the minimum value, which is 2.99. Using eViews, we create the multiple regression. Then we found that all of the independent variables are significant with the dependent variable where the probability value is less than 0.05. For instance, the inflation probability value is 0.029, and then the GDPR growth probability value is 0.006, while the FDI rate probability value is 0.017. Then debt to GDP probability value is 0.026. And then the adjusted R squared, we can see here, is 0.8107, which means that 81.07% of this model are fit and acceptable. And then the coefficient value, we can see that the GDPR growth, FDI rate, and debt to GDP is negative, which means if these three variables are decreased, the dependent variable, which is the unemployment rate, will decrease too. And then the inflation rate here is positive, this can define that if the inflation rate is increased, it might increase the unemployment rate too.
The autocorrection test is made using Bruch-Gray-free zero correction LM test with a lag of 1. Based on the data by the autocorrection test, since if the hypothesis of SCLM test, if the problem value is greater than 0.05, it means we can accept no hypothesis which has shown no autocorrection. So since the data from autocorrection test are greater than 0.05, which is 0.7813, then it means there are no autocorrection on this model. So in conclude, in this model, there are no discernible relationship between the error term value.
Next is the heteroskedasticity test. As we can see here, both probability chi-square is greater than 0.05, which is the first probability chi-square is 0.19 and the second probability chi-square is 0.95. We can conclude here that we'll accept the null hypothesis, which is the model is homoskedasticity. This also known as the error term does not change much as the predictor variable value.
For the multi-collinearity test is created using variant inflation factor. So based on the data, if the all VIF value is less than 0, there are no multi-collinearity, and if the VIF value is 10 or greater than 10, there are multi-collinearity. So based on the data, there are no multi-collinearity since all the VIF value is less than 10. This shows a good sign since the multicollinearity might cause the estimate coefficients to have a significant variance, so the coefficient estimates for those associated explanatory variable will not be reliable in presenting the true picture. They can become extremely sensitive to even minor model alteration.
Continue with my part of this presentations. 5.0 conclusions. For 5.1 summary of this study, this research paper are mainly use qualitative data from the journal Econometric estimations of the relationship between the employment rate and economic growth of FYR of Macedonia. In this project paper, we are use Evenus version 12 to interpret all the data that have been collected. The unemployment rate is considered to be dependent variable, while the economy factor such as GDP growth rate, inflation, debt to GDP, and foreign direct investments is considered to be independent variable that affecting unemployment rate in Malaysia. Next, 5.2 policy implication. Based on our empirical finding, all the dependent and independent variable has a positive relationship. Thus, the result from this project paper can be used as a main source for household, financial institution, industry, and government to identify the factors that affecting unemployment rate in Malaysia. The last one is 5.3 limitations and suggestions. During this tiring time, our government already done so much to reduce unemployment rate. One step that can be done to reduce unemployment rate is open new job field. Taking for example, we should put more light on e-commercials like Food Panda, GrabFood, and GrabCar, and the list is going on. These actions will diversify job opportunity in the market. On the other hand, government could increase the productivity of labor by control the minimum wage. These actions will promote manpower being used, and this will create a demand for manpower in the market. As a household, we could participate in government initiative to help us. Taking for example, the Amanah Ikhtiars that give modal for a woman in a family to start their passions in business. All these suggestions has a great chance to reduce the unemployment rate. We believe It is a collective teamwork are crucially needed to help to reduce this issue. If we play our role in this society, we can help our government to make our economy more stable and help it to become the greatest nations in this world.